Some 19 minutes past 8, our panel this morning, sports commentator James Somerset. James, great to have you back. And Lisa Owen, the Nation host. Lisa, good to have you along. And surprised to have you along too, because you were badly lacerated and bruised over the weekend.
Oh, no, just a couple of knocks and bumps from doing the mud run with the team up in the newsroom. Next year, Paul, you can be team captain.
See, that's a perfect opportunity to actually see people off, isn't it?
Hold them under the muddy water for a bit. Yeah, no, that's why I'm inviting you next year. We'll see.
Oh, to see me off.
Survival of the fittest.
Brilliant. All right, let's talk about this. We haven't got round to talking about this yet, but it's Otago researchers who have suggested in New Zealand that one way we can counter the appallingly high rates of teen pregnancy, and we're second in the world against the United States, is to offer blanket contraception, implants, IUDs, to teenage girls before they become sexually active. What's your view on that, Lisa?
A little uncomfortable about that. And when you say blanket contraceptive, only in the sense that it's addressing the women's side of thing, not the blokes. So what are we telling our young men about this? And also just talking to friends, they were saying, well, this is really the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, isn't it? So what's going on in our society when we have kids this young that we're thinking we should apply blanket contraception to? Why are they having sex at that very young age? And I mean, obviously, it's not an easy problem to solve, but kids, are they kids anymore? You know, that's the big question.
Well, I think they are. I think they are kids at the point that you're going to be offering them this blanket contraception. They are kids. But what is the alternative? Because it's not good enough. It's too much of a cop-out, and people do this all the time, say, well, we need to fall back on education, James, things like that. We know we have the problem. So if people say, you know, what's going wrong? Well, we know what's going wrong.
Yeah, we do.
We have an appalling problem with teen pregnancy.
I'm against it. I know that there's everything you can do to pick up the pieces at the bottom is just not going to work in this instance, because you've got such a big problem. At the end of the day, there's life at the end of it. There's always going to be life at the end of it. And instead of, you know, patchwork, that's just patchwork. It's like, you know, someone's stressed at work and you chuck them on Prozac. That's all it's doing, just forcing.
But this really isn't an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, is it? I mean, I know you could look at it that way, but in reality, it's the opposite to that, because an unwanted pregnancy for a teen can destroy their lives. Forget about the people around them. It can destroy their lives.
But so can changing the balance of their hormones in such a crucial time. You know, we're saying, oh, here you go, let's stop that. And without any thought of the fact that, I know my sister and even my fiance, when they were at school, there was nothing, sex education, there was nothing about the fact that you could perhaps create a life at the end of this with who you're knocking about with.
Okay, so you would fall back on this education thing. I mean, I think your point about the boys, that's a valid point, because it does send a bad message, but it could be maybe that there isn't a feasible health alternative to that. But that's a valid point.
You're still putting it all on the young women.
Yeah, but people have talked about this for eons, haven't they? I mean, at the end of the day, it is only the girl that's going to get pregnant.
At the other end of the spectrum, some people might say, which is obviously, you know, unrealistic, but it's an interesting comparison to debate. So what, we decide that we want a happier nation, so we're going to give them all Prozac or something.
It's an extreme argument, but it is the same sort of thing.
We're going to medicate everyone in other areas of life as well.
Well, we do, don't we? Fluoride.
Exactly, look at the debate that causes.
Oh, exactly. No, the interesting thing here is they're suggesting an opt-out clause. Now, I hate rules that are based on you having to opt out before it happens, so I hate that generally. But then you couldn't have it as an opt-in, because then you're relying on parents to make those calls that parents don't, this isn't going to affect me, beautiful little girl, my daughter's not going to be in that situation. So it wouldn't work as an opt-in thing. It's just, upside of this is the figures are dropping in New Zealand. So teen pregnancy rates are at least on the way down. They're appallingly high, but they're on the way down. Maybe we should do whatever we're continuing to do now, and hopefully they keep going down.
It's too extreme, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Right, the rugby tickets. I know you didn't want to talk much about this, Lisa, and for very good reason. I cannot believe that this country has become obsessed over this one thing.
Well, there's a couple of things about this. You know, obviously, people are selling these tickets, scalping these tickets. You can look at it in a couple of ways. Well, that's business opportunity, and they've grabbed it with both hands.
Yeah.
The other thing is, in the selling of the tickets, should they not limit them? And I don't know if they do, limit the number that you can actually buy to prevent people on selling masses of it. And this morning, those people who are lining up to buy their tickets, because those tickets are ring-fenced, so you can only get them if you turn up in person, you know, I think that's great, because The journey is a big part of it.
That's the
experience that they're going to remember.
That's right.
They've got the best thing, though, the rugby players coming down and
giving them pizza.
Who won't forget that? That's probably going to turn out to be better than
these
the game.
These guys are the winner. These 1,000 people down there at the museum at Te Papa, they're the winners in all this.
Except when they get pneumonia from standing in the queue for a day and a night and then don't make the game.
Glad to get pneumonia for this, though, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, you can go on a drip for sort of 2 hours beforehand.
Yeah, opt-out clause. So here's the thing very quickly. James, from your point of view, is there anything... I mean, people say they're morally bankrupt, these people. It was just a little business idea. It wasn't against the law. Buy a few tickets, sell them on Trade Me, see how much you can get.
Oh, I think you've got to go to, a whole broader range of topics to say, is it morally bankrupt? There's plenty of, it's just one thing and people can do it.
That's the thing. It's not against the law. People can do it, and they have, and actually not that very many of them. We're back with our panel very shortly.
You don't have to be there, babe.
All right, great to have you with us on paulhenry.co.nz. We're asking the question, essentially, what would you do if you were to Melmonch? Our commentators are with us this morning, James Somerset and Lisa Owen. Lisa, what would you do? You've just been given 15 years, could have been a life sentence, could have been death.
Like to think I wouldn't be in that position, but I would probably sit tight. You look at Chappelle Corby, sentenced to 20 years, served 9.
Yeah.
So I would hedge my bets that way, because what happens if you go back and you go the same way as the Bali 9?
Yeah, which is on the cards again, of course. You're facing death again if you go for a review.
It's a terrible lottery to be involved in.
Yep, quite frankly, I think, James, he did very well.
Yeah, I think so. I would sit tight as well, because at the end of the day, I did it. No matter how much I was
did it. There's no question he did it.
Indonesian law's Indonesian law.
Yeah.
And I don't want to die if I'm him.
But the terrible thing for him is obviously poor health and his family saying he will not last that sentence.
Yeah.
So I suppose, in essence, he feels he's got a death sentence.
The thing is, they're not completely heartless over there. They are not completely heartless, and we've seen them be lenient with others. I mean, the maximum he's going to serve, if he's unlucky, is 10 years. Absolute maximum. So if he gets really sick, presumably he'll get out before then. Yep, it's not pleasant.
Whoa.
Not pleasant, but it's better than a firing squad.
Appeal, and also get a longer sentence as well, because what I can't get past is, even if he was led into it and set up, his passport was in a backpack.
Oh, no, that's right. That's right. So, I mean, obviously it's mitigating circumstances, but the fact is he did do it, but there were mitigating circumstances. All right, James, Lisa, thank you very much for joining us. Lovely having you in again. Incidentally,